The wind came down from the northern ridges like a beast unchained, rattling shutters, clawing at doors, lifting the snow in great white veils that blurred the horizon until sky and ground became one endless, merciless sheet of pale. In such a storm even the hardiest cattle stumbled, even the most seasoned horse bent its head to endure, and the weakest, the forgotten souls, were left to vanish into drifts no one marked. It was on such a night that Mercy, not yet past her 22nd year but bearing eyes too old for her face, came walking into the town, clutching a thin shawl that the wind tore at like a spiteful hand. Her boots, once brown, were stained gray with ice, her cheeks hollowed by hunger, and her lips pressed together with the kind of dignity one carries when begging is no longer an option. She did not cry out, did not plead, though every door she passed was lit with the warm glow of fire within. A woman with 2 children gathering water paused at her gate, watched her go by, then turned quickly away. Men smoking under the awning of the store fell silent, eyes shifting, before returning to their talk. Mercy moved on, neither fast nor slow, as if each step carried the weight of her entire life and all its losses. She had not come seeking pity. She had come because the body, unlike the heart, cannot endure endless nights of snow without some measure of bread or warmth. Once, there had been a promise of both, an engagement spoken in softer seasons by a man with fine clothes and finer words. He had been her intended, or so he told her. Yet when rumors spread of her family's disgrace, when her father lost what little land they held and her mother took to her bed with illness, that man stepped back, one hand raised in apology, the other already reaching for some wealthier match. Now, as she passed his store, the same man stood behind polished glass, arranging goods with the air of someone proud of his prosperity. Their eyes met but a moment, and in that instant his lips curled in something between a smirk and a warning. She turned her gaze away, shoulders squared, heart burning hotter than the icy wind. Shame is a cold fiercer than any blizzard, for it lodges inside and consumes. The storm worsened as night thickened, and Mercy found herself pressed against the wall of the livery stable, where the wood blocked at least part of the wind. She pulled her shawl close, but her fingers were stiff, her breath ragged, and she knew the truth. She would not last till dawn. It was there, in that dim place of horses stamping, and the smell of hay mingling with frost, that he saw her. Herlin, 34 years of age, a man whose frame seemed carved by years of ranch work, and whose silence often said more than others' speeches, had come to check his horse. Snow fell from his broad hat as he stepped in, and his boots made a sound firm and certain on the boards. He paused when his eyes caught her figure, hunched and trembling. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, in a voice as rough as the timber beams, yet steady as earth beneath the snow, he spoke. "You'll freeze here." Mercy lifted her face, pale and resolute. "I have nowhere else." He studied her, not with the curiosity of gossip, nor the disdain of the storekeeper, but with the unflinching gaze of a man accustomed to storms. In her eyes he saw neither helplessness nor surrender, but a kind of stubborn endurance that matched the land itself. He set his gloved hands on his belt, drew a breath that clouded in the cold, and said words that would alter the course of 2 lives. "Then you'll come with me. I'll marry you, if only so you don't freeze." The words fell between them like iron into snow, heavy, immovable. Mercy blinked, searching his face for mockery, but found none. Her lips parted, then closed, for no reply could carry the full weight of what such an offer meant. A stranger, or near enough, binding himself not out of passion or desire but necessity. Yet in the quiet of his eyes there was no pity, only resolve. She rose, her legs trembling, and followed him out into the storm. They walked side by side through streets half buried. Lanterns swung from porches, dim halos in the storm, yet no door opened to invite them. Snow clung to Mercy's lashes, melted on her cheeks like tears she refused to shed. Herlin strode ahead, broad shoulders breaking the wind, glancing back once to be sure she kept pace. When at last they reached his cabin, set a little apart on the edge of town, he pushed the door open and ushered her inside. Warmth struck her first, then the smell of wood smoke and bread left from supper. She stood near the threshold, uncertain, while he shook the snow from his coat and hung it by the fire. "Sit," he said simply, pointing to the chair near the hearth. She obeyed, hands folded in her lap, the fire's glow painting color into her hollow cheeks. He set bread on the table, poured water, then sat across from her without questions, without prying into her past. The silence between them was not heavy but steady, like ground settling after a storm. She ate little, nibbling as if each bite were borrowed, and he did not press her. When she finished, he nodded once, satisfied, then rose to stoke the fire higher. Through that night and the next days, the rhythm between them grew like a song played soft and patient. He tended to chores with the diligence of habit, splitting wood, checking fences, mending harness, and she, though unused to such a place, found tasks she could do, sweeping the floor, washing dishes, patching clothes. He never asked more than she offered, yet never withheld the tools she needed to feel useful. Slowly, her shoulders loosened, her breath steadied, her eyes lifted more often to meet his. There was no rush, no grand gesture of affection, only the quiet grace of two souls finding the edges of each other's company. Yet doubt lingered in Mercy's heart, as doubt always does where shame has taken root. One evening, when the storm pressed harder against the shutters, and the world outside seemed intent on swallowing all within, she spoke. "Perhaps I should go. I do not wish to be your burden." Her voice was steady, though beneath it trembled fear of rejection once more. Herland set down the tools he held, turned slowly, and studied her as he had in the stable that first night. His eyes, dark with thought, softened. "You are not a burden. You are the bravest soul I've seen. When others turned their backs, you kept walking. That is strength. That is worth." He crossed the room then, each step deliberate, until he stood before her. His hand, rough from work, lifted her chin gently so her eyes met his. "I said I would marry you. I meant it. Not from pity. Not from shame. But because in you I see a heart that will not yield, and I will not let it freeze." The words broke something within her, not into despair but release. Tears spilled, hot against her chilled skin, and she let them come, for once unashamed. He gathered her then, arms strong, pulling her against him with a fierce passion that seemed to challenge the storm itself. His embrace was not the gentleness of hesitation, but the fierce grip of a man who has chosen, who has vowed. Outside, the blizzard roared, rattling the walls, but within, she felt shielded, anchored. For the first time in years, warmth sank deeper than skin. That very night, with snow still falling thick as feathers, Herland saddled his horse and rode with her to the home of a preacher who lived near the ridge. The journey was brutal, wind lashing, snow blinding, yet his arm held her close, steadying her in the saddle. The preacher, gray-haired and weary, opened his door in surprise, but when Herland spoke, his voice left no room for refusal. "We need vows spoken tonight." The old man nodded, lit his lamp, and in that modest cabin, with only the storm as witness, Herland and Mercy stood side by side. Their hands joined, their words spoken, not in grandeur but in truth. When the preacher bound them husband and wife, Herland pulled her once more into his arms, kissed her forehead with a reverence fiercer than passion, and whispered against her hair, "You are mine now, and I am yours. Let the storm do its worst. We will endure." And so they stepped back into the night, no longer two but one. The snow did not relent, but in their hearts a fire had kindled, one that no cold could quench. As they rode home, the horizon softened with the faintest hint of dawn. The world was still wild, still cruel, but within the circle of his arms and the steadiness of his vow, Mercy found what she had thought lost forever: a home, a place, a heart that saw her not as burden, but as beloved. And Herland, who had thought his life one of quiet endurance only, discovered that sometimes love arrives not with flowers or soft words, but with a storm at the door and a soul worth saving. Now, dear one who listens, perhaps by firelight as I tell it, remember this. Life on those plains was not measured only in cattle or coin, but in courage. The courage to see worth where others saw none, the courage to open your door when storms raged fiercest, the courage to bind yourself not for advantage but for love, fierce and unyielding. And if ever you find yourself in a storm, may you have the grace to take the hand extended, to say yes, and to step into the warmth that waits. For sometimes the bravest words are simply, "I will not let you freeze." So tell me, where are you listening from tonight? From the deserts, from the snows, from the cities where lights drown the stars? Share it with me. And if this tale has touched you, if Mercy's tears and Herland's vow have stirred something in your chest, then stay. There are more stories waiting. Stories of storms and vows, of hearts broken and mended. Click the one that follows, and let us walk together once more. For these Wild West tales are not just of then, but of now and of always.